past vintage recordings of UFO experiencers. And we have historian Jim Gray of the famed UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, Kansas. So take it away, sir.
Thank you. How many people know where Geneseo, Kansas is? Yeah, if you put your finger on a Kansas map right in the center, you'll be real close. We're, say, west Lindsborg, about 20 miles, 30 miles. And so this is a story. It's really a story about a man. That was Dr. E.D. Janzen, who lived in his home and had a tremendous love for the community of Geneseo and its people. And he collected photographs for the family albums and turned them into slides. So we have in the collection over 8,000 slides, not just Geneseo, but the surrounding area. And like I say, he was a passionate learner all of his life. He went to Moody Bible Institute in Chicago in the 1920s to become a minister. He was a ventriloquist. He used the ventriloquist programs in his ministry. He was a chiropractor. He was a naturopath. Read Braille, taught Braille, had communications with a lot of the leading people of the time. So, but his one great passion was one that the town of Geneseo didn't much appreciate, and that was the interest in what they called the Space Brothers, or the whole spacecraft UFO thing. They didn't call them UFOs because they thought they knew what they were. So this picture is taken from our Kansas UFO Day, and actually the Space Brothers that they came into contact didn't look like a little green man. They were more Nordic in appearance. They were human in appearance, and one of the little hooks for Dr. Janzen and a lot of these guys was that they professed a Christian type philosophy of living across the solar system and the larger part of the universe. So there's just another picture from that angle. This is Dr. Janzen. He never married, and I don't know when he slept either, because like with those photographs, there were written, each photograph was identified, and then written notes went into a separate little book, which we had like 20 of those books to identify the photographs. But yeah, there's a little piece on him in the museum. So that's part of the collection. He was raised on a farm north of Geneseo, and in 1951, his parents bought this house, moved into Geneseo, and then he moved in and lived with them too, until they passed away. And that's when he turned his house into a museum for the city. He loved Boston Terriers. There's over 200 of these guys in the collection. Every one of them's numbered, and every one of them has an identification that tells you either given to him as a gift or where he purchased it. This is Fritz. Fritz is still standing guard in the museum. There's some of the ventriloquist dolls. Go in there at night, those guys follow you around the room. They do. Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's just a little oddity in the museum of somebody's wooden leg. That's one of the few things if he had identified it, it got lost. We don't know what happened to it. That's the overall look at the home. This is in the front window. So Doc had these friends, and one in particular lived in Nickerson, Kansas, just outside of Hudson. And they claimed that there were a number of people from Venus living in Hutchinson at the time. And so they were trying to make contact with him and interact with him. So they made these little cards up. They had a flying saucer club in Hutchinson. We're talking about, this is a time slot from the 1950s into the 1960s, an era that was so unique that it'll never be the same again. But so they would put these in the back windows of their cars, hoping the Venusian would see it and stop and talk and communicate. Don't know that they were ever supposed to. Whoops, what did I do? Okay, I just got to tell you this little story. Nothing to do with UFOs, maybe a little paranormal, I don't know. This is Frank Liston. He was a Civil War veteran, lived, actually, I grew up out in the country just across the road from his homestead. There's his picture when he was in the Civil War. Dapper looking young guy. Okay. So, I was out in the cemetery at Geneseo on Memorial Weekend, and there were these people gathered around his stone, knowing that he was a neighbor across the street years ago. I went over to talk to them, and in talking to them, there was a lady there who had been a little girl when he was dying, and she said, it really scared her. He was breathing deeply, grasping for breath, just echoed through the house. And suddenly it went quiet. And the people in the room said that he sat up, put his fist forward, and he screamed, "Charge!" And he fell back dead. I looked at his war record. He'd been in all of the bloody infantry. He was an infantryman, man. He charged into death so many times that when the real thing came, that's what he did. Well, she was telling me the story about it. It was in a house in town, but she couldn't remember which one. And about 6 months later, we were talking to a relative, and it's that house. He died in the house upstairs in our museum. Just a cool little story. That's Frank. And then if you ever talk to anyone from Geneseo, we had a drugstore, well, Dallas drugstore, and the younger Frank Liston, this fellow right here, was the pharmacist, and he was like everybody's grandfather. He was our mentor. Well, this is such a cool picture because there he is with his grandfather Frank and brothers and one cousin. So I just had to, I get kind of nostalgic about this kind of stuff. That's Frank Liston. You go to Geneseo and want to talk to anybody and get a conversation started, and just say Frank Liston. You got the conversation. That was the old Western farm. When I was a kid, this was all gone. Part of this was broken down, stone and concrete. I'd get up on the walls from the inside, be Davy Crockett at the Alamo, fighting off the attack. Okay, so we get to the UFO stuff. So Dr. Janzen had contacts with so many different people at the time. This is one of the more famous of his friends, Buck Nelson. Buck Nelson lived in Mountain View, Missouri, and he claimed to have had aliens land on his property. And one of the things they liked about his place was the spring water. So they actually asked permission to collect water from his spring, and over time he got to know them, and they offered to take him into space. And so he wrote a little booklet about his trip to Mars, the Moon, and Venus. He would go around to the flying saucer clubs and talk about his experiences as far away as Washington, D.C. And he started a spacecraft convention on his little ranch there north of Mountain View. There's a little bit on the wall in the museum about the convention that he put on in 1966. So this then was where it all really came together. The people that were interested in this stuff were coming, again, a snapshot in time. You got a picture. It started from 1959, 1966. There was no, if there were, I don't recall the first time I saw McDonald's. It was a little after that. But there were no fast food places. And you packed a picnic lunch and all the little roadside parks. Some of you might remember the roadside parks that we had along the highways. Hundreds of people would come to his spacecraft convention, bring their picnic lunches, listen to the speakers, and he would attract speakers from all across, mostly the Midwestern part of the United States. So that was another friend of Doc Janzen was an artist, kind of a mechanical arts teacher, and he began to put together some of these representations of what the folks were talking about. And this was supposed to be the spacecraft that Buck Nelson was on. I found it interesting when he described being on this spacecraft that you couldn't really see from inside the craft what was directly below you unless they tilt the craft on its side, and then they could see what was directly below. This is John Dean. That's the fellow who did the artwork. When I was about maybe 12 years old, Doc went to the school and said, I got a fellow to put on a program about outer space. Oh yeah, they can do that. So they jumped all over that, but they had no idea what he was really going to talk about. He got up there and he went on for, I think, several hours talking about men from other federations, other planets, and their warnings to us that the nuclear testing was going to disrupt the stability of the Earth, and in fact the entire solar system. So they were putting out these warnings that were coming from the so-called the space folks, who were identified as coming from different planets in the solar system, Venus, some were from Saturn. I don't recall whether Jupiter was in the mix or not. He would go into pretty good detail what the inside of the ship looked like, and it had little bedrooms on the side, control panels over here, radio, TV room, and a special room for the dog that they carried with them. Interesting stuff. That's John Dean speaking at the Buck Nelson's convention. I suppose that could be as early as 1960, I think. So this is inside the museum, and these were all the drawings that John had done, and then he went to Doc Janzen and had them put on slides so he could do the slide programs. So back when he did the program at Geneseo, and he starts talking about all this stuff, and mouths are dropping all over the room. People can't even comprehend what he's talking about. And he's got clocks for time, how time was patterned in on different planets. Just a lot of, just like Doc Janzen, he was definitely a genius. He wrote a book chronicling all this that you really got to put your mind to it to stay with what he's saying, because it's so detailed. First, he wrote Flying Saucers and the Scriptures. They were really connected with this idea that the Space Brothers were promoting a Christian type philosophy. And then the Flying Saucers close up has alien languages in it, all kinds of different kinds of vehicles that were being used. And then, if you notice, right at the bottom, it says, Spaceman urged the author to complete this book, supplied much of the information, and approved the work. Although John Dean himself would admit that he never, actually, he was not one who had direct contact. His contact was more of a, through mental telepathy, that sort of thing. And like he and Buck Nelson, who lived out in the middle of nowhere without a telephone, would communicate through telepathy. And sure enough, they'd say, we're going to meet someplace, and they'd be there. So this is I think there's so much to learn in that room from these things that it took me a while, and I'm still trying to figure some of it out. But you've heard the descriptions of the cigar-shaped ships. Well, this is basically what they're seeing, and it's a mothership. So like when we were looking back there at that flying saucer that we drew, they called them scout ships. Each one of these little black is a scout ship. So that's the hangar deck, and you would fly your scout ship into the airlocks, come in here, and then park your ship. And then when you got ready to leave, it had a track that would bring the ship down to here, and then go out through airlocks to leave the spacecraft. So these ships are extremely mothership. No wonder they would find them so noticeable. Like, there's the story. There's been books written about in the 1890s. There was a series of sightings coming from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, going east towards Chicago. And most of the sightings were of this type of a ship moving very slowly through the sky. It's only my opinion, but I think they were mapping the surface of the planet, seeing how, and perhaps have done it for who knows how long, but to see the changes as we had moved out onto the plains and began to populate, we're changing things. So this is Valiant Thor. You've ever heard the name of Valiant Thor? But he supposedly lived in the Pentagon during the Eisenhower years, and was an advisor to our leaders. And he was supposed to be from Venus. And there's another picture, I don't believe I have that. another picture of a couple of other people that were with him at the time. But sometimes you can find some books on Valiant Thor, and he's just a legend. You might be here among us right now, but they say that, although I didn't recognize him, they say that he still looks young like that. So he's been around, and it turns up occasionally as an advisor under certain circumstances. Well, when they had their saucer clubs, one of the fellows, James Hill, was from a little town southeast of Springfield, Missouri. And he claimed the same thing, that saucers would land on his place, and then one time they had a pregnant dog about to give birth, and they didn't want to take her back on the ship, so they left her with him, and then came back for the pups sometime later and gave him one of the pups. So this is actually the second one he got. The first one he called Queenie. This was King, and they had a woolly-like hair structure that he would brush out, take to the saucer clubs and peddle the hair from a dog from Venus. So in the Geneseo City Museum, we've got two patches of hair from dogs from Venus. I don't think you can find anybody else. That was our first World UFO Day, and then we started doing it. World UFO Day is always on the same date, so it's a different day of the week, and we didn't want to do that, so we switched it to calling it the Kansas UFO Day. And next year it's going to be on June 28th. And we bring in, we tell this story. So what happened was we decided that was going to be a Saturday, and we wanted to do something to promote this collection that the people of Geneseo didn't like anyone knowing about. It was there, but no one talked about it. Geneseo was a big secret. And Geneseo is this little town that, like most towns in the Great Plains, it's crumbling away. We get our funding mostly from alumni. We don't have a high school anymore, so it's like when the last one passes away, just shut out the lights. And we couldn't do that, so we figured the UFO collection would at least get an outside interest into the museum. So we wanted to do World UFO Day. Well, it was only a few days after we made the decision to do this that the secretary was cleaning out the silt in the curb. Had been there for who knows how long. And she uncovered this marker in the concrete. What is it? Well, everybody said it's a compass. Well, yeah, okay, so it's a compass. What's it doing? And I had to turn around, go back there. From the street, this is looking towards the house. It points right to the back side of the house. But if you're going to look at it oriented with north, so I step over on the yard side of the curve oriented north, and this vector, what is that? Didn't realize it until it turned it that way. It's a little flying saucer. And the thing is, this curb and gutter, we finally identified that it was put in 1947. That's 4 years before Dr. Janzen's family even lived in the house. And it's a big mystery. What's it doing there? We have no idea. But I've been to, Karen and I've been to Roswell, New Mexico, and something popped into my head. Well, where's Roswell from here? And it was a little more blow up, but it's like a little etched in that concrete. Geneseo, Kansas, Roswell, New Mexico, exactly 500 miles. And there's not another town that intersects that line. What's that? we don't know. We have no idea. But there you see it. But beyond that, it's shooting towards Roswell, New Mexico, so they call it the Roswell Compass. And it's just a big mystery. I have no idea why it's there. But it is, most definitely is flying saucer on that record. So we made up a little t-shirt, became pretty popular. Called Geneseo Dimension G. Having fun with it. So then, you know, our flying saucer day, there was a guy who walked up to me who lived out in the country near Dickerson, and as a young man had seen this flying saucer come into flying close to the farm yard, and he was kind of whispering to me as he told me the story. He really didn't want too many people to know. That's my grandson. That's just some people who showed up from Hutchinson, I believe. Oh, I love their outfit. Motorized flying saucer. Some Geneseo's flying, look like people. People decorate their yards. Then the ground, see, the museum's just right here, and we have these open grounds. And we have speakers of folks from Caney come down, make it a lot of fun, and have some speakers, a little bit of music, and vendors, and it's just a lot of fun. Everybody enjoys themselves. So yeah, we were named. Been a couple of years ago now. KSN's top 10 unique Kansas destinations. People just, not a lot of space in the museum, but we can crowd them in there if we have to. And that was in the local paper. UFOs are real or they aren't real. And that was actually, I guess, one of John Dean's funnies, having Santa Claus deliver packages from the spacecraft. But some of these people that Doc got to know, I don't remember where I've gone next. That's it. There was a Ottawa Indian that ran a what he called an Indian Christian camp down Sapulpa, Oklahoma, and he also was one who had been picked up, taken into space, sort of thing. So, like I say, if you go into the UFO room, it's just a collection of special people that lived during that time period. Now, I know you're all waiting to hear the audio. I gotta tell you, I went off and left my audio at home, but a good friend of mine, and Caney folks all know him, Dave Zerf, kind of saved me a little bit. He sent me a little clip, so I'm gonna play this for you. We have in that collection, we have dozens of reel-to-reel recordings of these people of the time speaking about their experiences. And this is just a short clip combining a number of them, and you'll hear a little, sounds like telemetry, and Zerf pulled that off of one of the tapes as a background to their voices. But you're going to hear Buck Nelson. You're going to hear the Mitchell sisters, were a couple of sisters who were also taken into space and given the warning against nuclear testing. Almost all of them had that warning attached to their experiences. And then you're going to hear Dr. Janzen trying to make contact. There's a fellow in town that used to live down the street from him. As a kid, he would go see Doc, and Doc would take him in and play these tapes for him. And he said, he told me one time, he says, on a dark night, if you go out into a field, you just wait and look up, maybe they'll come to you. And Doc Janzen never had personal experience that we know of, but he had all this chronicling of everybody else's. See if we can't get this thing. Buck Nelson.
I've been 3 times. I looked down at the mule again and up at that thing, and it astonished me because it was coming right for it. It was around like the tide. Well, it came kind of soon then.
This is one thing I came into this world with, the knowledge that there were inhabitants on the stars.
Strange colors then light up into the sky, and before you could almost say scat, he was out of sight.
The harmony that is expressed here, I am sure, is being picked up by the people of other worlds, for they have told us that such things are so. Welcome, everyone.
The tapes that we have are actually quite extensive, and we've got them all put onto CDs, so that hopefully we'll have more for you in the future. So, do you have any questions? I still have questions. Oh, the next Kansas UFO Day is next June 28th. Yes, that's it. But we always put it pretty close to, it would be pretty close to the 4th of July. And next year it would have been on the 250th anniversary, and we thought that maybe wouldn't work so well for us, so we moved it forward to June 28th. Yeah. And the people, I tell you what, the people that come are just so much fun. And the first year we did it, I was so busy and kind of harried and didn't really enjoy it myself. But the second year I was a little more comfortable with it, and I got to look at around. All the smiles on people's faces and the fun that people were having. It has felt really rewarding to be able to do something that you can't find anywhere else in the state of Kansas. You like it? Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, it's great.
We're about 45 miles. If you go up 96 towards, you go all the way to Sterling at the end of 96 now, and then go north to Lyons, and Geneseo is just north of Lyons. Yeah, it's easy to travel. Well, it's a lot of distance. Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, oh yeah. Well, you know, being a small town museum, we're actually only officially open one day out of the month, and that's like the second Saturday. But we've got phone numbers on the door, and all you gotta do, or just call ahead too, and we usually, I've only had one time when no one could make the connection. We've always find somebody to make a connection. And you know, of course, everybody comes to the museum because of the UFO stuff from outside. But I got such a kick out of it. A lady walked in the door one day. I bet she probably didn't get as far as from here to that podium. She just stopped. Oh my! We have so much, like we saw, there's some eclectic collection of things. We have so much that people don't expect to have. It's kind of a nice surprise. Any other questions? Okay. We're still waiting on the Venusians to come land on our grounds. Just like Doc Janzen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Isn't that great? We love Geneseo, Kansas. Our team, Bordertown Paranormal, we try to go up every July. I think it's the first weekend in July. Oh, June 28th this year. We get to go up there and watch all that fantastic stuff going on, and we get to panel with them. It's so much fun. So thank you, Jim. Oh.
These guys, they do make the day. It's really a lot of fun. And now they've discovered a new reason to come to Geneseo, and that's our intaglio.
Yes.
Very.
Yeah, we're enthralled with all the local ancient history, petroglyphs and stuff like that. It's a really cool area out there. You should plan to go out there and see it. And if it's off of UFO day, call ahead so you can get into the museum because it's just super, super fun. So before I let you go here real quick, coming up here, we're going to let you go for 10 minutes and be back for the panel Bigfoot Origins with guest moderator Jason Roberts of Wichita's Road Trip Paranormal and the Kansas Bigfoot Research Society. You don't want to miss that one. The panel is going to be full of guys from the Red Dirt Cryptids and some others, and they are super interesting. You don't want to miss that. And really quick, I just want to give a shout out to some of our sponsors. Bargain Center of Independence is the one who always provides this nice big screen TV for all of our presentations and our ads you see rolling all day long. And they also offer us a little bit of this and that. Last year they offered some free giveaways, and this year we got some other stuff. We just love them to give some. If you want to rent some TVs or something like that, hit the Bargain Center in Independence. We also want to thank two guys in a PA. They always run all of our sound for free, and I kind of like that one. We also want to thank Sonic. Sonic provides all of the water and refreshments for our speakers in the green room, so thank you to them. And we'd also like to thank 104.1 KGGF Radio. They always run our ads every year for a at-cost kind of price, and they really help with our advertising. I also want to tell everybody to make sure and get your tickets in for your raffles. I don't know if you've been over to look yet, but there's some specials this year. This year we're offering a ghost hunt for two with our team at the Sedan Theater. It's called the Greg Theater. It's super interesting. It's going to be super fun because we're going to teach you how to ghost hunt. You get a little bit of instruments and things like that to go with it. So get in there and get your raffles in. And I'll see you back here in 10 minutes for that next panel.